It started out in pediatrics, where they were saying little kids who have compromised blood flow to the heart, this really helped them out, and then went to cross the board, all cardiology. And then they found that it had another effect in vasodilation, or increasing blood flow, and so it's now the active ingredient in Viagra and wins the world, award for it.
Oh, wow.
So, but the big opening door was that there are these molecular structures that are made by the body to signal things in the body that we need to do. So about the same time, there was a sister set of discoveries that was happening that was looking at, and today you'll see in most look at medicine and curing and all that sort of thing in the Western mindset, is based on the idea of letting the cells understand what's happening to them, because they have to do 100 million things to adapt. And they were saying, let's look at how the cell does that. How does it adapt to the changing world? We're all exercisers here. And you can take a person who's really floppy and sloppy and falling apart, do exercise over time, and somehow the cells know what to make as better, stronger cells. That kind of goes against the whole grain of we get older and deteriorate more. How does it do that? It requires the ability to read the DNA in a way that was more similar to when you were young. Because when you were young, you built a whole human being from a single cell. Then when you were born, you stopped being able to make certain types of tissues from the same DNA. You have the same DNA in every cell in your body today as the DNA of that original cell during conception. And whether it's heart or brain or muscle or bones, the same DNA in every one. So we had no idea, other than God said so, that this one would split and become the beginning of a neurologic system, the beginning of the immune system. We didn't know how that happened because they shared exactly the same DNA and they were in the same environment. They were very close to each other. How did it know? And it turns out there's a series of molecules akin to that first nitric oxide they saw that are made when your body does respiration, when the cell does a respiration. And that's what happens in those little factories called mitochondria. It's burning sugars and fats to make the energy to create the ATP that provides the engine to run everything. Without it, you'd be dead in 3 minutes. It's the most common thing we all do. And it turns out the cells monitor their world and environment based on the balance of the exhaust from that internal combustion engine. And if it gets off a little bit, it adjusts the dials and switches and comes back to a more normal place. And it fights using requests from all over. It can request things to happen in the cell, outside the cell, other organs, muscles, and the body can adapt. It does it by doing this really interesting thing. There are observer genes in each one of your cells. And those observer genes, we now can add back things that you used to make when you were younger, because we start losing these mitochondria at about 10% per decade. We can't
The
adapt.
mitochondria actually starts to wither and die.
Right. You don't have as many.
As of what age?
Right at birth.
Right, birth.
Yeah. And so as they drop off, you can't read all of the DNA when you go to make new cells. So all of us are making new cells on cycles. The ones in your alimentary canal, the mouth and digestive tract, change every 2 days. Brand new cells. The ones in your skin, when you're 2 years old, are every 14 days make new skin. By the time you're 20, it's every 28 days. It slows down. And by the time we get to looking like some of these pictures here, this is skin that is, well, let's take a look at Rosie here. This skin is probably 100 days old at 84 years old. As we add back these signaling characters in the missing pieces from those mitochondria, this is 7 weeks later.
Wow.
And this is 3 years later.
Wow.
Her body begins to remember how it was working when it all looked better, when it was younger and when it was more vibrant and so forth. So let's take a look at these. This is about 90-day-old skin in a 50 to 69-year-old woman, a doctor, by the way. And this is 28 days later. And it's saying, well, what's the radical difference? It's just remembering that when we were 45, we made new cells faster. If they last too long, they start to lose the elasticity and the hydration, and they just droop. The same thing's happening within the inner organ systems. Those cells are less functional, they're too tired, you're not giving them replacements fast enough, they can't read the changes quickly enough. One leads to another, you get damage. It's like going out and trying to go surfing in big waves. You hit the wave, you fall off the board, you try to paddle out again, you get hit another one. Pretty soon the waves are coming faster than you can get back on the board, and that begins to cause us to age and die.
Yeah.
This is another, just an interesting shot here. This is a girl with acne, and she's now very overwhelmed with it, but not so difficult look on this screen, but if I put it on your big screen, it'll really show up. Her particular metabolism, they said if they put her on the Accutane that they would normally do for this kind of condition, her metabolism would cause her to go sterile. She wouldn't be able to have babies.
Oh, geez.
So they said, you can either have babies or clear skin. What's your choice? What we did was we then reminded the system with a very interesting material. It's just safer than water. It's made into a gel. You apply it topically. And in 4 days, she went from skin acting like 17 to acting like 7 years old.
Wow.
A similar thing here. This is the loss of elasticity in the chin. Dark spots are where we can't get rid of the waste because our circulation's down. We just don't have it. In 16 days, the system starts remembering how to correct itself. It's pretty radical. We see the same thing in this type of skin.
I'm having this right now on my. I never had this on my arms.
So
ever.
the skin is breaking down and getting thin, and if you bump into something, it can tear, it can bleed, and it's kind of hastening the process of breaking down because it's lasting too long. Here we see less than a month where it begins to start to remember what it was doing before. I've been around this long enough to see changes. People I knew 20, 25 years ago, if we hang around together, they look like somebody pickled them and dried them in the sun. And
I should
can't
show
hardly
you
remember.
the pictures that before I had this. I look like 20 years older. Actually, I do.
20 years older or younger?
Now than she did
Older.
then. 20
Yeah.
years older now than she did then.
Yeah.
Oh, 20 years older now than yeah.
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 I will show these pictures.
And so we think that the same thing is occurring in your arm. It's like the whole system got switched to doing other things, trying to fight something it can't keep up with. So it can't really do its normal. And so let's try to see if we can find normal. I'll do a couple of quick tests on you tonight and we'll see what happens. And it's just nothing more than saying we're turning the lights on for the system and we're giving it the cues to allow it to talk to itself so it can read the way it used to work, because the DNA doesn't change over the course of your lifetime.
Yeah.
It stays the same.
Right.
It just can't seem to keep up. So let's take a look at some wounds that we see. This woman is actually having this. It's called a chemical peel. The doctors are doing this to her skin because if it lasts too long, it starts growing tumors.
Jeez.
So they'll peel it off down several layers by putting a burn on a chemical burn.
Gosh.
Sorry.
No, the emotions are good.
Yeah.
It's good. Getting the evil spirits out. Let her rip. And so she would have this burn off, and then she'd be 2 weeks of scabs, and then she would have another week of terrible pain because the nerves were coming back alive, and then they'd do it again. And through that process, she went from growing about 3 tumors a month to 1.
Wow.
Wasn't perfect. But once we began to start to remind the system to do its own turnover, she never ever had to have this again and never grew another tumor.
Wow.
This guy's another example of the skin that's really been overwhelmed. He's 95 years old, and in this particular part here, he's months and he can't figure out how to heal his own skin after the chemical peel that the doctor did. This is 5 days later, where the system, it's remarkable. The healing process is beyond our comprehension how complex it can become.
Wow.
And all the things the cell has to do. But if we can just orient it so it does its own work. Another key that we wondered about was why can we go from skin to scar? Everybody knows how to do that.
Is that you guys?
No, it's you. It sounds like the mothership is calling you.
Right.
For this girl, it's been 17 years of scar on her nose here.
Wow.
And that's been there every 30 days in her age group. The scar has to replace itself just like the skin next to it. And those cells are changing. And we kept wondering, why don't those cells read the DNA properly and go back to skin, because it says at this location skin is required. And in one cell cycle, 30 days, it never made scar again.
Wow.
Same thing.
I have a lot of scars on my body right now.
From
Yeah.
outbreaks. Mm-hmm.
Major.
So
I'm not pretty anymore.
What it looks
You know?
like is that it's oftentimes we get infection in the blood with kids, and it really fast can start to burn from the inside out. It's called sepsis. It's pretty nasty stuff.
Sepsis. Oh yeah.
If we can get them to survive, then they're scarred, for good. But now we're changing this scar really radically. Here we've never seen anything we could do to fix this.
That's like stretch marks, right?
Right.
From the lady.
Because this is 11, 12 layers underneath the skin, is
Wow.
down where the skin is actually reproduced.
Wow.
But this then is less than a month later, where those cells that are producing start reading the system, and they can make whatever they want as long as they have the information to do it.
Yeah.
Here's further damage that we see where a little baby burned herself on a halogen light.
Oh, jeez.
The neighbor was a new nurse and decided that she cut the skin away, which is not a good idea. So putting this in the baby's hand in this liquid it can't be like in a metal pan. Metal is the one place we can't work with it.
Yeah.
But baby stopped crying in a couple minutes. And so over and over and over they did this.
Did you use the liquid or the gel?
We did the liquid.
The
there.
liquid.
And so in 26 days, she rebuilt this hand with no scars. Every fingerprint returned.
Wow.
All the creases. We thought, wow, that's pretty amazing. But we're real young, so we're close to that time when she was in the embryo. Maybe we can really still make up the memory of how that was done. So this guy came along. Now, he burned himself on a motorcycle tailpipe. This is his ankle.
Jeez.
And he burned through skin, fascia, fat, the whole thing. Well, he's using this material in a spray bottle. Probably cost $7. And it's antibacterial, antiviral, safer than water, but it's going to keep it from getting infected. And we expected to he wanted to just make it feel better. To everybody's surprise, at 55 years old, it would seem to go back to the original playbook and rebuild all 4 layers of tissues in a way that hadn't been done since she was in the womb. So this is all kind of this is the immune system attacking the human body with not recognizing that it's the good guys. So it's friendly fire. And what it's picking up is it's picking up inflammation. And so the immune system attacks the inflammation. It says, it's possible that could be invading microbes and that could kill us. But it's so confusing in here with lack of hydration, poor nutrition, poor sleep, radio waves, microwaves, light pollution, sound pollution, all the stuff that we deal with now, GMOs and everything else. It's just going, I don't know, I can't tell. In the normal natural tissues, it normally have like a neon sign saying, "Don't hit me, I'm the piano player." And it's like the lights are going out, and so it says, I don't know, man, I just have to attack this. So when it is inflamed and attacks normal tissue, then it becomes more inflamed, and then it gets more attacked. And so the cycle goes
Vicious
through.
cycle.
And that's what we call autoimmune disease. And there's 150 of these autoimmune diseases. Here's another example where the skin was so weak in this area that it was sun damaged, and so it started growing fungus.
Oh.
So this comes a little bit close to home for you, and I'm going to show you a couple other things. And so what we thought was she was going to put some of this stuff, Lamisil, on it, and that is an antifungal. But in her case, she started getting, the skin just couldn't handle that topical application. And it really didn't seem to be on top of it. Here, what we did was we just reminded the skin how it used to work before she had this, or it seems to have held up. Now it has the sign to hold up and say, don't attack me anymore. And then it figures its own way to eradicate that in a way we never really, now let's jump back here to this one. This is more of a condition where she picked this up as a little kid and down in here. And we would have thought that somebody goes from here to here in 4 days. It was because, well, first off, little kids make new skin. So if the new skin comes up with the ability to fight it, it'll change real quickly and there's no scar that forms. So that was cool. 4 days. But more likely, it's actually fighting its own battles. This is a virus here growing on the eyelid. And
I actually had that. I should show you all the pictures. Did you see me?
I don't think with that. You had that thing on your eyelid. I didn't
Yeah,
see that.
I love it.
And so what happened was she started using this gel topically, and in 16 days that was gone, and most people thought, well, this must be an antiviral. But more likely what happened was the skin has lasted so long it can't even raise its arm up to wield the sword and knock it out of there to fight the battle. Over here, there's enough turnover of new skin that it just eradicated it on its own. So let's go back down here a little bit and see what we got. Another one where the skin's attacking itself.
Oh, wow, look at that.
This is a lady who dropped a piece of furniture on her foot at 65 years old, and all this bruising and difficulty. She's hobbling around. This should take quite a while to fix. But when she was younger, it didn't take very long. This is 24 hours later.
Wow.
And even these, which are some wounds that were just not fixable.
What is that?
That's called necrosis of the skin. It was an infection, and it
Gosh.
started just getting worse and worse. He lives in Mexico down in the jungle, and he doesn't have any place to go to get health care. So it's gone to some, out of control. And then we would have thought that we're putting something on that probably kills it, but we think it's actually growing out from the inside and just leaves it. So that's really what we're playing with here. It's just the ability to remind this. It doesn't treat or cure or heal or diagnose anything. It simply adds back the communication tools that allow the system to do what it could do in its own right.
So what you're doing is you're enhancing its own system to do what it's supposed to do.
Right.
Where all this stuff here is just, these are all just like.
Well, this stuff right here, this Lamisil kills fungus. That's the design of it. It's what it does. And so that's great if it gets the job done. If it's down deep, it can't really penetrate very far. So you might be able to get some of the topical things with the Lamisil. And some of the other things that they're trying are really directly related to the fungus. And you said it was fungus and mold?
Fungus and bacteria.
And bacteria.
2 bacteria.
2 bacteria.
So your normal system...
And my brain is infected.
Yeah. She's having a hard
Awesome.
time with the cognitive part of her thinking.
I can't say 3 syllables. Procurement department. I mean,
Just get lost in there. So let's just talk about, rather than, functional systems, what can we, function is really what we're after.
Yeah.
Who cares what the science is if the body can actually figure its way out of the hole? it's going to get way too complicated, and that's too long a class. So I'd like to do a test on you to see if I can change how fast your system picks up external information. So it's pretty interesting. It's just a balance deal we're going to do. You can hold the camera.
Wait, hold the camera for her?
Yeah.
Okay.
So my hands are still infected.
Okay.
So
Now,
you
her
can see the
infection that she
white.
has with the fungus and the bacteria, is that transferable to other humans?
I suppose if you had enough weakness, sure.
Oh, wow.
So this is a gel that all we have to do is apply it. So what I want you to do is I want you to hold your hands like this. Kind of make a fist and hold it like that.
You want to use my hair?
We can try a little bit of spot there too.
Oh my gosh, yes, yes.
And you can, there's a liquid form of this too that you can put in a spray bottle and just spray through here. Or you could dump it on your head and wash your hair.
Yeah.
Wash your hair without, first clean it, and then, because it will tend to react with biological systems, and you want all of it to go to work. But if you have stuff, the oils and that kind of thing, it'll react with the oils, and you'll have less to work on you. But
So don't put any of the shampoos and the conditioners in the hair.
Yeah.
Actually, I only use the shampoo stuff, and I don't put any of the
extra things.
No, I don't.
And you know, later on you can, but for now you're trying to get as much of this as you can to the system.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do a couple different things. And one is to put those arms out like that again, and one hand kind of holding the other like this. And when I push up, I want you to just kind of hold steady and don't let me push up. Now
Try to
count down
resist.
3, 2, 1. As I press up, I see that I don't get as much toe lift, so the arms and shoulders.
I'm seeing the lift there come on the toes a little bit.
But do you hurt in your shoulders or back at all?
I was in a car wreck November 7th.
Just to add to it, right? Just
Yeah.
because. Well, you know what the good news is? You're only allowed 3 really crappy things in your life, and then you don't get any more. So, so then the next one thing. So where did it hurt when I pushed on your hands?
My knees, because I was in the Home Depot truck, and we were picking up the washer and dryer, and we were stopped at a stop sign, and somebody hit us. And
You weren't even driving.
no.
You don't stand over here so the meteor hits right there and not here. Just bad luck. Okay, so let's try one thing here too, and I want you to just take your arms down to your side and squat down till your knees start to hurt, and then just come right back up. I just want to see how far that is. Okay, now that's the deal. When you get down there where it just starts to hurt, I'm going to mark on my arm how far that is from the floor. Okay, let your finger straight. Just lean straight.
Oh, that's it.
Okay, right there. Got you. Come on back up. Okay, so if you would, I want you to take this.
Okay.
And I want you to put a little bit of it on your neck, which is the carotid arteries. And do you feel a little foggier at night than you do during the day? Or does it make a difference? Just feel like your brain
I
fog
feel
generally?
foggy all the time.
Okay, so
I'm not speaking very well, and I'm not thinking very well.
so when I pushed up on your hands, your knees was what mostly hurt, right? Okay? And when you went down there, you're going, okay, that's not good, and it was this far down. So all I want you to do is to apply this. First, I'm going to do a quick check. I just want you to put it here and here. Now, this will actually go right up into your brain.
Awesome.
She's awesome.
Yay!
And just put it on your neck, both sides of your arms out. And this is what we do for those wrinkly old ladies. And me too. And with that, it's a communication tool, so it doesn't take really very long. So let's try something with just that quick, and then normally I would do it 3 times 5 minutes, and I want to do it on your knees. So you have a heck of time going up and down stairs, right? You can do it, but do you have?
Should I rub it on my hands?
Yeah, in a minute. I'm just going to do this test, and then I'm going to take a bath and stuff like that. In fact, I feel sorry for you, so I'll leave this whole tube with you. And then I want you just to play with it and just have fun with it and just do stuff. You want to shake it up because it can tend to separate, and then just knock yourself out. But let's test you again and see if we've changed anything. So put the arms out in front like this. And don't let me push up.
Hold her.
3, 2, 1, resist. There's the same force, double, 4 times. Now, do you feel your abdominal muscles kicking in?
I feel a little bit stronger.
And yeah, you are stronger. And then do you feel your knees hurting as much? So go ahead and push again. And I'm pushing much harder and your knees don't hurt.
I tell you, that's amazing, as I tell you.
Now, I want you to just do the same thing with your arms down to your side. I'm going to mark how far you were able to go when your knees started hurting before. And then don't go all the way into the pain, but just say, well, that's where it would start, and then come on back up. So I'm going to mark it right here. And say, go ahead down, keep your arms straight. And then you've now gained about 10.
Wow.
Okay.
Now you know I want you to meet this guy.
Now this is starting to communicate. It's just.
Procurement department.
What's that?
She tried procurement department.
Oh, procurement department.
I'm working on fuel commodities, and I'm not speaking very well. Procurement department. Did I say that better?
Yes.
So let's try one more shot there on your neck. You can wipe some on your hands, and we can just kind of just play with this a little bit.
What about my head?
Yeah, we'll do that at the end here. And what I've done now is I've kind of given you a couple little baseline things to begin to start to imagine. You've got probably some recent photographs. Keep them.
I have really major pictures of me, what happened.
Yes.
And
She
major.
does. Yes.
Okay, now with that,
I mean, I could be in your.
let's do a little bit more on the neck now. And again, right in through here goes carotid arteries right up to the brain.
Carotid artery. Okay.
My wife says corroded arteries. For some people that's true.
Carotid.
Carotid.
You're getting it. You almost got carotid.
Carotid. There it is.
You said it. Good. Yeah, good.
Procurement department.
That's starting to come out there.
Yeah.
And so we'll see these kinds of changes. You should see it on a stroke victim. It's pretty crazy. And it's simply, there's these naturally occurring body mechanisms that are always there and always have been. It's sort of like if you were out in the Australian desert and you were with a little Aborigine, they could sense where water is. You probably could too if you used it and practiced it ever since you were a little kid. But we don't. So interestingly, we have all these things, like you could think of somebody you haven't thought of in 15 years, and then 2 seconds later the phone rings and it's them. Oh, how the heck? Or you have an intuition that's something, mother's intuition type thing. Kids are in trouble somewhere and you find out the next day that at that very hour something happened. We have all these systems that we just have we got lazy, went to sleep, don't use them. We wouldn't, if you lived out in the jungle, you'd have a lot of things that you would have to pay attention to. And what I think we're doing now is we're just causing them to refocus. You're exposed to more toxicity in 15 minutes than someone living 100 years ago would have gotten in their whole lifetime. You get that in 15 minutes. So you have to have a more difficult life to adapt to. We need better signaling to be able to adapt. So it's not really that unusual. It's not really that weird. But it's something that as we add it back and it starts to remember how do you do it, you can do all kinds of stuff when you're little.
I was raised with my father, and motorcycles, and I would play with everybody, and I was a girly girl
There
though.
you go. All right. Jeans and pearls and motorcycles.
Jeans, pearls, and motorcycles.
Okay, so with that then, it's better if it just makes a difference. And then And right now, I want you to just kind of walk around, try to do some stairs and see if it made any difference. And you can apply it to your knees too if you want to.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So Eric, you can explain what all this, the liquid parts are, and explain with how to do that. But here's what I would write down if I was to write anything down: is that you should get on about 8 to 16 ounces. It depends on how much your system will handle. You can't overdose on it. It can't hurt you at any level. Just swish it around and swallow it. You can take some and put it on your scalp. Just spray it. You can spray it on your face. You can put it on your face with this. So you can just have a ball with it. This is ridiculously inexpensive in this tube. It's a little more expensive with the liquid, but if it gets you to where you can work again, I guess that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I want my life back.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, to be honest, I don't want to live. I don't want to live like this.
All right, let's win. All for one and one for all.
Oh, okay.
Let's get better and go live. Yeah, God bless you. That's what I needed to hear right there. That's great. Perfect. Okay, so that's a shot. Probably as good as any. I would still use this because sometimes we just want to get the over, if we don't have to do it all with your own system, and just get over it.
You're saying to her to keep you losing a little bit of stuff at the moment?
Use those to try to kill some of the superficial stuff and what's going on.
Okay.
And then we'll build you from the inside out. And you can stand up on TV and say procurement 3 times.
Procurement department.
Yeah, it's better. It's getting better. Procurement department.
And prove it. And then and so if you get better, can we brag about you?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Now, I work with the Hyperbaric Society and the World Brain Mapping Foundation. Now, Dr. Babek Kakab is going to be putting a team together with what happened to be, because the doctors don't know how to handle this. I was locked up in the hospital as a 5150 and a 5250, and they said, "You're delusional." Huh? Are you kidding? I almost went blind. I was very stressed.
So we want to make sure that
I will show you the pictures.
I would even say if you wanted to, you can take this. It might burn once in a while, which I don't even understand yet, because sometimes you don't even feel it at all. You ever heard of a neti pot? It looks like a little teapot, and you put this salt water in it. So if you have a stuffy nose or you have an infection in your sinuses, people will lay there and they just literally pour salt water up your nose. And it doesn't really hurt, because it's the same thing when you sneeze or you have a cold and you sniff saline solution, right? Then it breaks up all of that mucus. It's what's involved in breaking it up. So you can sniff it. Now, if you start to get dryness in the first couple of 3 weeks of using it, about 5 or 6 minutes after you apply it, maybe 10, you can use some moisturizer wherever you start to experience the dryness. That'll last for about 2 or 3 weeks, and what it is that the outer skin has been attacked and damaged and older and lasting too long, and so it becomes, there's 12 layers of overlying skin, and then there's the factory that makes these new skin cells underneath. And if you start making big, plump, juicy, nice new cells, but they're underneath a concrete ceiling, they're putting pressure up here, and it can get irritated and then eventually cracks almost like a sunburn sometimes. And then once it comes through, it's like that the butterfly coming out of the chrysalis.
Mm.
It's a magnificent result, but you can get crack and drying from the stuff we're trying to get rid of, and more pushing up from underneath to get rid of it. So you're encouraged.
Coconut oil.
You can do
Is
that
that
for now, but I think ultimately, if you could get her some of the stuff we've really designed for this, is to try to keep it from reacting. We do.
I want to do it exactly because I did not get better by myself.
So the skincare kit for her would be huge.
Okay.
In that you would use the topical white tube for general body use. Then there's another little tube that's called serum, and it's 10 times more concentrated than this. So on any of the spots where you're having the breakout,
The little spots right here and
I
stuff.
have my scalp is major problem.
and just a little dab, it doesn't take very much. That stuff.
Now, how's she
goes
gonna get through her
forever.
scalp? Is she just do the spray?
Or you can take it and just separate the hair and just touch it. You know, you can feel around with this finger, and then you got it on this finger, and you go touch, and that's about all you need to do.
Okay.
And so just go around to those spots where you really know it. And then generally, once a day, you can take a spray bottle and spray it up here, or you can pour a little bit on and then just sort of massage it, and it'll go in very quickly. It's pretty neat stuff. It's just like salt water. You know, it's about that same consistency, and you should do well with it. In fact, do you ever get dry eyes or like visual difficulties? You were saying you're going blind from such.
Well, I was infected with the bacteria and the fungus on my eyes, eyelid, and my vision was really, really bad.
So you can actually put
Is this right here part of the infection too? Right here on your.
Uh-huh.
Okay. All right.
And you can use this. That's where I'd use the serum, is on the spots that you see.
Yeah.
And then use the liquid. It comes in quarts, and drink it. Push it around a little bit, maybe 20-30 seconds, and then slow swallow. At a level of about, we'll start at 4 ounces for a couple of days and see what she does.
Just
2 in
4
the
ounces
morning and
for
2 at night.
2 in the morning, 2 at night. Okay.
And then go up 2 ounces a day until you get to 16 ounces and see where you're at with it. And then the other, so I want the skincare kit used as the skincare kit is told to use.
Okay.
And so it'll have a cleanser that then takes off the stuff we don't want to be reacting with the. Then you use the application. Then you a few minutes later you use the moisturizer.
Okay.
Any one of those hot spots, anytime you want to, you can be touching that with that serum, it's called.
Mm-hmm.
And then take a small eyedropper or a spray bottle. The spray bottle, you can just get it for 80 cents down at the drugstore.
Do they still send? Used to send the little spray bottle. Blue.
No, they don't come in anymore because some of the countries it's not cleared for topical use in some countries.
Wow.
You just have to kind of go through that. So they took it out of all of them. But you can just get it for 80 cents. Put it in so that you use that whole amount. I like to put about maybe an inch in. Use it up in a couple of days because it's got a real soft rubber plastic in it.
Yeah.
And that can denature it back to useless salt water in about maybe a week.
Oh.
So I'd rather have you use it.
You
up.
just use an inch of it and then use it all up within a few days.
Yeah,
that way it
rather
doesn't.
than having the bottle full.
Don't just.
I want to do it exactly the way everybody you're telling me because what I did in the past, bad call.
Hmm.
You know.
Yeah, we all have to learn to be a bad patient before we can be a good one. I did the same thing with my shoulders, So,
Stem cells. Actually.
and actually, what's interesting is that most of the time, your stem cells, if you take them out and then regrow them and you use more, do you know that stem cells come from precursor cells in the bloodstream or in the bone marrow, and they can either become a red blood cell, a white blood cell, bone marrow, or bone, platelet, or a stem cell. Do you know what it uses to know which one to become? It's called redox signaling. This whole science is called redox signaling. If you have the signaling and your body's calling for it, it'll make it. If your body's calling for it, but you're missing some of the letters in the signals, he can call for it all he wants, it won't happen.
Right.
Then once the stem cell is released, how does it know where to park? Redox signaling. It's reading this language of this signaling. Once it's there, it has to determine what kind of cell am I going to make now that I'm here. And if you want it to be, oh, it's damaged in the optic nerve, you want it to be a nerve cell. If it's damaged in your cardiac cells in your heart, it has to become a muscle cell. How does it know to do that? Redox signaling. So it's the core basic of the basic communication of the system and how it works. Return it to its original plan, and all the cells seem to begin to start to become more like what they used to do. And we know when you were 12, 13, 16 years old, you didn't have all this stuff. So just rebuild the system from the inside out, letting it figure its own way, because there's too dang many different types of cells and interactions and chemical systems.
They share with her on the redox is two words put together, which means reducer and oxidizer. And one aspirates and one aspirates and one does the other one. One reduces and one oxidizes, right?
Oxidizers are things that we know break. If you get too many of them, your system will start to rust.
Yes.
You get damaged and break down and do all that stuff. And so everybody says take antioxidants. Well, your body has some pretty incredible antioxidants, including glutathione and superoxide dismutase and catalase, that are hundreds of millions of times stronger than anything you can eat. But they're made in the cell. And if you can't make the signal to remind it to make it, it doesn't know whether it's making enough or not making enough. And now we can see in one study that we did with this, we found that if you put this back in by just simply drinking it, some people will inhale it. Then it says, dude, I didn't know we were that far off. And it starts being able to read its own screen better. And it goes, whoa, dude. So you have 3 cells sitting next to each other in a damaged part of the body. This one, so all of a sudden gets all this clarity and can see exactly what's happening around it and in it and all around. And it goes, we're golden. I don't need to change a thing. This one here goes, hot dang, we're going to have to replace about half of this side. And it goes and repairs it, does a remodel. This one over here, with the same information, goes, we're screwed. This thing is just not even worth fixing. And so it breaks down and replaces it. And that's what makes this so safe, because it's not trying to force everybody to do something. It's just saying, just give it all information and let it figure its way out, because it's a miracle, if you will. So it's that's the way to handle it.
And what of the on the online there on the different packets, which one has what you're talking about? Has the
They're actually called
yeah, because there's several different options. That's what I was asking you.
They're called I think it's the sample pack, but it's the one that has everything in it. So then you got a shot at it. I would really plan to do it for 3 months at the higher levels, and then let's really take a good assessment. and then we'll step back and take a look. But there is I think I have the kits in here, so you can just point out which one.
Let me show you the pictures. Okay.
Okay.
So I want to save this. How do I do that?